Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're exploring the life of a man who used his intellect like a literal weapon to reshape an entire civilization. His name is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, widely celebrated as the father of modern India. And honestly, his story? It's an absolute masterclass in how to dismantle systemic injustice using reason, education, and just unyielding determination. Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to put yourselves in the shoes of someone facing an immovable, oppressive culture. How do you actually change a centuries-old tradition? We aren't just talking about changing a single law here. We're talking about shifting the very fabric of how a society thinks, breathes, and operates. I mean, where do you even begin?
Well, for Ram Mohan Roy, that answer started with a deeply personal and, frankly, horrific inciting incident. The year was 1789. Picture this. A 17-year-old girl, Roy's own sister-in-law, is being dragged toward a funeral pyre. The young Roy watched in absolute terror, trying desperately to protest, but his voice was just entirely drowned out. She was burned alive while the crowd chanted Sati over her painful screams. This traumatic, deeply scarring moment etched a vow right into his soul.
Now, to really grasp the stakes of this explainer, we need to be clear about exactly what he was up against. Sati was a practice where a widow was expected, or outright forced, to immolate herself on her deceased husband's funeral pyre. This was the horrific tradition that Roy vowed to completely destroy.
So, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the spark of reform, his role as a champion of women's rights, revolutionizing Indian education, the Brahmo Samaj, and finally, his enduring legacy as the father of modern India. All right, let's start with part one, the spark of reform. To fight the powerful orthodox elite of his time, Roy knew he couldn't just rely on raw emotion or passion. He needed a serious intellectual arsenal. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how he built that arsenal, by mastering Bengali, Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, Hindi, English, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. I mean, wow, right? That was his ultimate superpower. It allowed him to read original religious scriptures from multiple faiths firsthand. He used this deep knowledge to corner Orthodox priests, proving to them that oppressive myths, like Sati, were not actually mandated by the ancient pure texts at all. Moving right along to part two, champion of women's rights. Armed with ancient texts and modern reason, Roy took the fight straight to the public. He used journalism and publishing as literal acts of rebellion against censorship and cruelty. Let's actually contrast his reformist vision directly against the grim realities of 19th century Orthodox practices. So while the elite enforced sati, polygamy, child marriage, and the dowry system, Roy envisioned a completely different society. He argued relentlessly for widow remarriage, widespread education for girls, and women's property rights. He was basically trying to single-handedly shift the entire societal paradigm. His whole philosophy on gender equality is perfectly captured in this one powerful quote. The advancement of women is the advancement of society. He applied relentless pressure, combining these ironclad scriptural arguments with moral appeals to the British government. And you know what? It worked. His tireless campaigning culminated in Lord William Bentinck passing the Bengal Sati regulation in 1829, finally abolishing the practice. Which brings us to part three, revolutionizing Indian education. Changing the law just wasn't enough. He knew he had to change minds. He viewed education as the absolute, ultimate tool for lasting social reform. So, to bridge the massive gap between traditional Indian learning and what the nation actually needed to step into the future, he founded institutions like the Anglo-Hindu School in 1822 and the Vedanta College in 1826. But here's the genius part. Instead of rejecting one culture for the other, he integrated the very best of Indian philosophy with modern Western science, mathematics, and English curriculum. And this brilliantly illustrates his core belief: knowledge is the foundation of progress. He firmly believed that instilling critical thinking in the next generation was literally the only way to pull society out of blind superstition. Let's jump into part four, the Brahmo Samaj. His deep desire to institutionalize this critical thought led to his most famous legacy, the Brahmo Samaj, founded in 1828 alongside Debendranath Tagore. Let's break down its core tenets real quick. First, monotheism, the belief in one universal God. Second, equality, a strict, uncompromising rejection of the caste system and any form of social discrimination. And third, rationality, the outright rejection of idol worship, fixed places of worship, and blind superstitions.
He expertly crafted these principles by studying the Upanishads and then combined them with monastic elements from Islam, Christianity, and 18th century deism. So the crucial point here is captured in his own words. Truth does not belong exclusively to any one religion. Roy had this deep, unwavering commitment to religious tolerance. He constantly sought out the universal moral values that connected humanity, really aiming to create a fair, just society without all that sectarian division.
And finally, Part 5, Father of Modern India. Looking at his final years, his legacy expanded way beyond the borders of Bengal, ultimately elevating India onto the global stage. Let's track this hero's journey. Born in Bengal in 1772, as a young man, he suffers the immense trauma of witnessing Sati firsthand. Fast forward to 1814, he channels his intellect to found the Atmiya Sabha discussion circle. In 1828, he launches the Brahmo Samaj. The very next year, his life's work culminates in the abolition of Sati. And finally, acting as an ambassador of the Mughal Empire fighting for Indian rights and stipends, he travels to the UK, ultimately passing away in Bristol, England in 1833.
But his vast, multidisciplinary impact absolutely did not die with him. Did you know he literally wrote the first Bengali grammar book? He was also a pioneer of Indian journalism, heavily championing a free press. He even inspired the foundational laws of library science, so much so that the government's Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation still funds public learning across India to this very day. He was, in essence, the spark that ignited the entire Bengal Renaissance.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to reflect on as we wrap up this explainer. What outdated customs will you challenge with reason and morality today? Because Rajaram Mohan Roy proves that one educated, determined individual who absolutely refuses to accept the way things have always been can quite literally rewrite the future of a society. Thank you so much for diving into this incredible history with me, and I really hope this leaves you inspired to always keep learning and, for sure, always keep questioning.